the chaos and the panic of like not winning games for a club as big as Birmingham and thinking you're going to win the league, you're going like, why the hell are we losing like 5-0 at home to Barnsley? Like you cannot
I
explain
was
that.
with you on that. I couldn't believe that either.
I couldn't believe it.
Support for today's Blues Focus podcast is brought to you by none other than Manscaped. Manscaped specialised in all your below-the-waist grooming needs. They've only just recently landed in the UK, so you could be one of the first men in the country to even try out their products. So get looking at them now. They're definitely big in other countries, and they've finally dropped in the UK. To get 20% off plus free shipping, use the code BluesFocus20 at manscaped.com. I suppose kind of on Blackpool a bit. Obviously, you missed out on the semi-final with an injury. How was that for you, kind of mentally missing out on such a big game? And do you ever kind of look back and think maybe I could have stopped that from happening? Or if you watch the goals, do you ever feel like you could have played a part and maybe we could have won? Because I thought we were very unlucky, extremely unlucky.
Yeah. I think that I've missed big games before. You know, like I missed 2 Carling Cup semi-finals for 2 separate suspensions, and one of them was a crazy yellow card I took at Turf Moor in a third round replay of the FA Cup, and I'll never forget it, and I'll never get over it because I was just mouthing at the ref, and he gave me a yellow, and it's my 5th booking. So, you know, we do crazy things when we think it's life and death at the time, and so you miss games, and then with injury, you just sort of like, it happens, it's part and parcel of the game. And I ruptured my adductor at Portman Road. So, you know, I tore my adductor off the ball, and it was like, it's a big injury. It's quite severe.
It's not an easy one.
And it's not like you're nearly there, you've got no adductor, you know. But let's say that's a 10, 12 week injury. I think the playoff final was probably like 7 or 8 weeks from that injury. And I said to myself, and I probably needed this to get over the disappointment, I'm going to play in the playoff final. I'm going to be fit. I'm going to get ready.
Yeah.
And so I just did everything, guys. Like I worked out with the oxygen mask on. You know, I slept right. I did everything that everybody said. I iced every second that people asked me to ice, and I stayed off my feet. And because I just said, I'm playing in this playoff final, and I was really felt like it was destiny that I was going to be fit for that game and we were going to win at Wembley again. And so, yeah, I was never really contemplating we weren't going to win till the final whistle went at St Andrews, and we were out and the season's done. And then the disappointment hit that I was injured, and that the sort of like disappointment in not being at another playoff final was there. So, yeah, it was. I think if we had everybody fit, we would have beat Blackpool, but it's
easily,
yeah.
I don't honestly. I've watched the game back a few times, both legs, and I don't think Blackpool even particularly played well. I think the passion and drive from them was there, obviously, because it's a semi-final, but there were goalkeeper blunders. There were it was just very, I suppose, individual mistakes a lot of the time, and just very unfortunate.
It's funny that John said earlier that we run out of steam, and even at St Andrews, I just thought we were a bit flat. I really did, you know. So sometimes that's to do with like, it's one thing having the physicality go and play a game. It's another thing to just keep getting up and up and up and up for like big games. It's challenging, and we had some younger guys in that second leg, and it was probably just came too soon for them, you know. Yeah. And so I think that with the experience, like Fergie was playing for Blackpool and things like that, their kind of know-how just shaded it for them. But they weren't a better team than us, and if we had everybody fit, we would have won, I think.
Yeah. And I suppose that then led to Chris moving on and Lee coming in. Did you know Lee from your time at Newcastle? Did your paths ever cross?
Yeah, I knew Lee Clark really well. Just was always great to me when I saw him in Newcastle, and I played against him when he was at Fulham, and you know, I had friends who were his friends, and so there was a real kind of connection there.
Yeah.
but yeah, we had never been teammates. But yeah, I felt comfortable with him coming in. You know, I was really bitterly disappointed that Chris left. I sort of like the minute I got that call and I knew that, I really felt like that pit of your stomach feeling that it just wasn't going to be good. And then you learn how to deal with stuff in professional football, and I just dealt with it, move on. And here that Lee Clark's coming in, I'm like, oh well, this could be good. And I felt like we made some good signings in that summer, and I really thought, wow, we're set up again. We're going to be kicking on. We've not got Europe. It's going to help us, with the age of some of our guys. It's sort of like 5-10 less games. We'll win the league. I really started that season. I'm like, we will win this championship. I honestly felt that.
And we were lucky enough to have Lee on about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And fair play to him. I mean, I think it is. Tom, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it's probably our top ranked pod that we've done, certainly on YouTube, because he was so bloody honest. And I think his time. And we've said this to quite a lot of players that maybe have left Blues under a bit of a cloud because, it's that sort of time's a great healer. And I think what's happened since Lee's moved on, it puts into context what he actually did by keeping us in the division. And he sort of went into quite a lot of detail around, I suppose, the being sold the dream and signing the contract. And then 2 weeks after, the dream is gone, the nightmare begins, and it's shed all your players. So did you feel that as a playing squad quite early in the season that things were shifting between obviously Chris coming out and Lee coming in and maybe the whole financial position of the club?
So for me, the worst thing that a club can do when they lose or sack a manager is bring in another manager who's different. Doesn't mean worse or better, it just means different. And I think the first mistake that Birmingham made was that Chris Hughton and Lee Clark were different the way that they went about things and different the way that we played. And I don't think that he was necessarily the right appointment for that squad at that time. Now, if you've got time and you can transition and, you then make the squad yours, then eventually everybody wants it to be in their style. But unfortunately, as he was trying to change things and some new players had came in and were sort of developing another style of play, we weren't winning games. And then the confidence starts to go. And when the confidence goes within a squad, it leaves individuals, it leaves players, it obviously leaves coaches and management staff because they wonder what the heck's going wrong. And then it becomes like a global team thing, And then it's like a little bit selfish, you might say, and go like, well, how do I fix myself? And so there becomes like this fracture of the culture, as we say these days. We used to say team spirit back in the day, but basically the culture of the squad was changing.
Yes.
And I was one of the leaders in the dressing room, and Stevie was the club captain, but I was often the playing captain back then, and I was trying to hold this together for the club and for my mate who was the head coach, the manager, and I was fiercely loyal to Lee Clark. And in the end, I was disappointed that I didn't think he reciprocated that fierce loyalty to me.
Okay.
And I will say that I wasn't playing great, like I have to say that. And you're probably going like, yeah, wait a minute, mate, you're letting me down, but I just think that the things that were going on, the way that we were made up, I just had hoped that he would kind of give me the benefit of the doubt a bit longer, and ultimately he dropped me, and our trust kind of like changed a little bit then. And then it's difficult to lead when you've lost that sort of like cachet, and so
get that.
It was challenging. It was a hard year. My family were in the northeast, back to Newcastle area, and the year before. But the year before it was fine. I was playing games all the time. We were winning. This year I'm going like, I'm missing my kids. I found myself back there on a Wednesday day off and struggling to get in the car to go back to my apartment in Birmingham because I didn't want to leave the kids. And so I had this kind of personal stuff going on. I wasn't playing well. The situation was bad. We were losing games, and it was an awful year. And And there's I don't believe in blaming anybody in football. I think you look at yourself, you look hard in the mirror. I was taught that by my dad. Like, look in the mirror and ask yourself, could you did everything? Did you do your best? And I don't think I had my best season by any stretch of imagination. But I think that, unfortunately, again, there was too many guys that were saying the same thing as they looked in their mirror, you know. And it was a disaster. And I've not actually seen Lee since then. I've no gripes against him at all. Things happen in football. We shook hands when I left. He's still a great guy. I'd have a pint with him any time. I actually bumped into Steve Watson once in Manchester when I was at my brother's, and we had a good little blather and a good chat. And I idolised these guys. These guys are my heroes when I was growing up at Newcastle. And I used to steal Steve Watson's old boots and wear them like think I was a man because I was in the New Predator and stuff like that. You know? I love that guy, and I still love them. I never had a great year with them. This is what happens in the game, you know. And it's I have all my own beliefs on why it happened and that, but it doesn't make me right. It's just my story of events, you know.
Sure.
I have an interesting question for you. It's a bit of a tough one, I suppose. Kind of looking at that time, I know you said that you felt like you could really win the league with the squad you had going into that second season. And like you say, you know, the appointment of Lee Clark, 2 different managers, instead of a promotion season, it became a transitional period, and we finished mid-table in the end. But, you know, as a player, did you have your eye on any managers at the time that you would have liked to have come in and took charge of that Blues squad?
No, not at all. I don't think it's a player's place to even like think like that. You just want that security as a player and that consistency, you know. So like I said, I just think it should have been a guy that was a bit closer to Chris, and maybe they thought that Lee was like that, but I just never, that's not the experience that I had in 1 year working with Lee Clark. Like, I just found them really different for Chris, and I thought the message got muddled, and I felt like we got to a point where we never really knew what we were going out there to do, you know. And he's done brilliant at other clubs, and you know, like I said, it's I hope you don't think I'm like having a dig at Lee Clark, you know. It's just not the case. I'm just trying to explain the situation in amongst like the chaos and the panic of like not winning games for a club as big as Birmingham, and thinking you're going to win the league. You're going like, why the hell are we losing like 5-0 at home to Barnsley? Like, you cannot explain.
I was with you on that. I couldn't believe that either.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, I just like, things were happening like that was like hard to fathom while it's going on, you know. And I just think that if I think Chris would have had better answers for that.